Here are the progressive news headlines for Thursday, September 3rd. And I do want to apologize for those of you watching who had to sit through a Trump video ad on YouTube before you get to the actual content. I noticed that Trump is smearing Trump ads all over our videos on act.tv. We'll work on having that not happen, but YouTube doesn't let you choose who advertises. So apparently Trump is trying to convince the unconvincible, hopefully y'all, that he's a great guy. Anyway, here are the progressive news headlines. We'll just keep going with that. It's crazy. Trump tells the RNC North Carolina residents to vote twice. He openly encouraged voter fraud and felony committing. This is a craziness that we did not expect, or maybe we should have. It's a felony under North Carolina law to vote more than once or to induce others to do so. So in North Carolina, he's committed a felony to add to the probably rest of the felonies that he's committed. Donald Trump openly encouraged residents of the state to attempt to cast 2 ballots in November in the election. In an interview with a local reporter yesterday, he encouraged voters to test the state's mail-in voting system by mailing a ballot, checking to see if they could still cast a vote in person on election day. He said to the reporter, if the system is as good as they say it is, then obviously they won't be able to vote on election day. Under election law in North Carolina, where an estimated 600,000 voters have requested absentee ballots, it's a felony. As I said, illegal for any person with the intent to commit a fraud to register to vote at more than one precinct or more than one at a time. This is just absolutely crazy. If you're healthy and able and a North Carolina resident, sign up to work at a poll site in North Carolina to make sure the election is free and fair. You can go to ncsbe.gov in order to do that. I would just like to say that Trump, he's playing this perfectly. If you're white and you do it, or a Republican and you do it, vote once by mail, once in person in North Carolina, which, by the way, the fact that he's even doing this shows that he's scared that he's going to lose North Carolina, which I hope he does. You're probably not going to have a problem. But if you're black or if you're a Democrat, I would say definitely don't do that. I'm sure he wasn't talking to you anyway, but definitely don't do that because you could be arrested for a felony, which I'm sure they would do. And then if even one person does it, Fox on the Democratic side, Fox News is going to blow it up to be, voter fraud. It's rampant. Therefore, you should get a chip in your neck in order to vote with your driver's license on your forehead. It's craziness. Just saying. But can't we also arrest President Trump for, committing a felony? Hopefully maybe he won't be able to go anymore to North Carolina because he'll be wanted for a felony. That would be an interesting end to this whole thing. Anyway, it's been a rough week for these characters. The city of Hoboken just filed a lawsuit against Exxon and multiple big oil players. Hoboken joins an increasing number of state and local governments using litigation in efforts to hold the fossil fuel industry accountable for how they're making the environment unlivable. Well, really, hold the fossil fuel accountable for defrauding the public and about the foreseen climate crisis damages, and made companies basically pay their fair share of the cost of mitigating the greenhouse gas emissions and adapting to a warming planet. It's going to cost a freaking fortune. The lawsuit argues that the defendants and the American Petroleum Institute knew that their production, marketing, and sale of fossil fuels would cause global climate change. They knew, while they simultaneously began redesigning its own assets to adapt to rising sea levels and publicly told the world that climate change was a hoax. So aren't you allowed to mislead the public as such? Hopefully not. And maybe this lawsuit will actually, help. Pro-democracy organizations are coming together to ensure Trump leaves the White House if he loses the election. Yeah, It's important. I can't believe we have to do this work, but we do. Yesterday, the groups, which included Stand Up America, Indivisible, and Next Gen America, unveiled the Protect the Results, movement, I guess. This is to mobilize Americans should Trump contest the election results or refuse to concede after losing or claim victory before all the votes are counted. Although we know that mail-in ballots will continue to be counted after Election Day, Trump continues to misdirect the American people that the results on Election Day will not, election night will be final. That's not true. You always have to count the mail-in voting ballots. He must be terrified to be upending all this stuff. Experts say that because almost twice as many Democrats as Republicans plan to vote by mail to prevent, the pandemic, Trump could claim a landslide victory that doesn't exist on Election Day. This is bad. This is how Bush got in. Here. Why is protecting the results so important? Trump ignores democratic norms. Trump has repeatedly threatened not to accept election results. He lied about mail-in voting being linked to voter fraud. He made disturbing, and I mean disturbing, comments that he would stay in office no matter what happens. And he solicited China, Russia, and the Ukraine to interfere in our elections. I think we need all hands on deck for this. Look at this. Look at these tweets. There is no way that mail-in ballots will be anything less than substantially fraudulent. Mailboxes will be robbed, ballots will be forged, and they will all vote for Biden in an effort to get rid of me. Even though, oh my goodness. Okay, I'm going to let you read these tweets. And then we're going to move on. By the way, if you have not watched, today we had an interview with the postmaster, the head of the Postal Workers Union, Mark Diamondstein. It's going to be here on our YouTube channel. If you missed it, you can check it out. He says that it's no problem to vote by mail, and they're going to be able to deliver them mostly on time, pretty much on time. So don't worry about it. They've got it. So it's just Trump bloviating a bunch of bull that might help him and further scramble the reality that we're living in, which I don't need. All right. By the way, you can go to protecttheresults.com to join this coalition's efforts to ensure the free and fair election in November. In other news, in the near future, immigrants applying for a green card, a visa, or a work authorization might have to submit to iris scans, voice prints, and DNA collection under a plan expected to be released this week by the Department of Homeland Security, which I thought we were going to try to ban. This is in addition to fingerprints already collected. Andrea Flores, Deputy Director of Immigration Policy for the American Civil Liberties Union, said the plan is overbroad and unnecessary. She asks in response, how are they going, what did she say? She said, how are they storing this data? Why do they need this data? They already collect biometric information like fingerprints. Why are they collecting DNA? I have the same question about why they're collecting DNA. When my daughter was born in a hospital in New York City, they wouldn't release us from the hospital before they collected some of her DNA for some sort of New York State storage of DNA thing. She was a day old. What's the plan here? If anyone knows, I'd like to hear about it. Please put it in the comments, okay? American citizens also may have to undergo scans if they sponsor a family member to come here. You can join the ACLU in calling on Congress to cut funding for DHS at aclu.org. This is quite terrifying, specifically to me. I'm still wondering what they've done in New York with my baby's DNA. Why are they collecting it in a bank? I'm certain they didn't do that to me. And honestly, if I had left without allowing them to do so, they threatened to call like Child Protective Services and take your kid. So there's a lot of fucked up stuff happening. Anyway, just saying. All right, but we live through it. We keep going, moving along. At the suggestion of Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrats on the House Oversight Committee issued a subpoena on Wednesday requesting documents from our good old postmaster, who we've been talking about a lot today, Louis DeJoy. Can we change the guy's name? Including unredacted copies of his official government calendar. This is the committee's last strategy to compel DeJoy, also a major GOP and Trump donor, to come clean about possible conflicts of interest or communications with the White House related to the controversial charges made under his leadership at the Postal Service in recent months.